While we, the coalition, the Derry Anti-War Coalition, didn't set it up to say, so we tried to keep it as broad as possible and keep a united campaign. Nevertheless, the issue of Raytheon would continue to come up. How can we say that we're against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan when we have got this weapons manufacturer and half a mile away at the edge of our city, and surely we have to address that question at the same time. And it was in that context that sort of successive lobbies and pressure that was put on the local council. We would often have sort of 50, 100 people lobbying outside the city council. Succeeded in forcing them to pass a motion against the arms trade, and the way they worded it was quite interesting, kind of on the pressure of the campaign. It's just some of the highlights. It said, Council has received assurances that the Raytheon facility here in Derry will only be engaged in activities in its civilian applications. Council acknowledges that Raytheon's core global business is the arms trade. The Council wants no part of that trade in this city. If it is shown that Raytheon have broken their understanding to engage in only civilian work in Derry, the Council's position will change. So that, and that sort of put Raytheon under a certain amount of pressure. I mean, as I mentioned this morning, that really wasn't worth the paper it was written on. When it was proven, the documents were revealed about Raytheon's involvement in military technology, the reaction of the council, and some very interesting discussions with some of the people on the council. And I know quite a few of the councillors, the SDLP councillors, Sinn Féin councillors in particular, and you would have, there'd be someone who would work quite closely with in the anti-war movement generally. And there was one of the Sinn Féin position when it became clear, their new position was that they would then call on, so Sinn Féin made an announcement saying Sinn Féin will be calling at the next meeting of Derry City Council to reaffirm and implement our adopted position and call on Raytheon to confine itself to civil development work. So, rather than saying they're making military technology, we want nothing to do with them, they're not welcome in the city, they just sort of make a little flip. And Jerry McLaughlin, who was the guy who put that forward, a decent left-wing member of Sinn Féin. So I said to me secretly afterwards, he says, well, you understand it's a difficult issue, sort of a difficult position here, we can't seem to be against our investment and all that sort of stuff. And he said, the main thing is that we're worried that if we call for them to go out of Derry, that they will actually go out of Derry, and that Sinn Féin will get the blame, and which I thought was a really rare example of somebody, sort of being afraid to raise the political slogan in case it succeeded. But that was the sort of twist and turn and contortions they had. The motion that they eventually, I remember sitting at the council meeting when they brought this up, because we had another lobby, and the eventual motion that they passed was this: that Council writes to the UK and Irish governments, urging them to use every means at their disposal to ensure much stronger control on the arms trade. And that was it. That was all they passed after it became sort of unavoidable that they right to Tony Blair, he's in the middle of two wars. But I think it was important. It was important background. Those sorts of actions, and we had loads of other demonstrations and so on, big lobbies and regular vigils and pickets outside Raytheon and so on, right throughout those 7 years. It's important background to what we did. We occupied the Raytheon office in 2003, shortly after the start of the bombing of Iraq, and it was the day after there was a bomb that fell in a marketplace in Baghdad, and the front page article on the internet the next day by Robert Fisk talked about, which we read out when we got in there, talked about how the young boys of the neighbourhood were going to pick up the fuselage of the missile, and the markings on the side clearly identified as a Raytheon made missile. 68 people were killed in that bomb bombing alone. So we had an occupation, walked into the office, and we much resistance, sat down, and were eventually removed by the police at that time. So we sort of knew we could get into the office. But when the Lebanon War started, to us it was almost a final straw, and it was like these people are going to act as if they're going to act as if they just weathered the storm, they've weathered the controversy that had been happening for the last 6 years, the political pressure that's on them, and just carry on as normal at a time when Raytheon missiles will be were being rushed to Israel in order to drop them all over Lebanon. And it was the impetus for us, I think, was to say we have done everything as much as we could to go through normal democratic processes. Raytheon have treated that even the local politicians with complete contempt. Lied to them, refused to meet with them sometimes, refused to meet with anybody from the campaign or anything like that. We have to do something that they can't ignore, and we have to do something that physically attempts to disrupt their operations, to make this clear as we possibly could that that people in Derry weren't going to sit by and just allow this to happen. And I would say, the action that we took, in some ways we were surprised at getting in there. We were down at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we managed to push away. We had to smash the door in order to get in because they sort of locked the door. But we managed to get in easily enough. Didn't say anything. Just asked the people the workers who were there to leave, and then set about destroying all the computer equipment that we possibly could. And lots of PCs were eventually thrown out windows. So I dramatised the fact that everything was destroyed in the office and it couldn't be used. But the thing about it is that when we did that, I think we were prepared. We weren't particularly prepared for two nights in jail at the time, which was tough enough. The police came in with very, very serious charges against us under the Terrorism Act. When we were being held, we thought we just could release the police bail, and it was a long, drawn-out struggle to get those charges reduced. Then the police said we get too favourable a trial in Derry, or too favourable a jury in Derry, so therefore they have to move to Belfast. And so there was a whole lot of wrangling and all that went on with that. And in some ways, I would say that I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as as the strategy for things. Actually, we realised that I had to keep reminding ourselves at different times during that whole process that we couldn't simply limit ourselves to a defence campaign for the Raytheon line. We had to always look for the way to broaden the opposition to the war, to bring in, we organised a very successful conference at the end of last year in Derry, which is great, which sort of hardly mentioned the issue of Raytheon, but instead kept it very, very open, had speakers from Iraq, from Palestine and so on, to discuss the general movement and opposition to the war. And in that context, so there were more people outside the court every time we appeared there, because we kept building the anti-war movement as well as doing that. But I think, at the same time, the reason, we went through those couple of years, and it was a tremendous vindication to get the court and get a jury to agree that what we did was reasonable in the circumstances to prevent the commission of war crimes. But it was like it took us 2 years to prove something that we already knew. In the middle of the occupation, they flew in hostage negotiators from Belfast to come and speak to us, and it was sort of when they turned up, we were saying, "Oh my God, this has got very, very serious here," It's a lot more serious than we thought, and then there was a massive build-up of riot police outside and so on right through the afternoon and all that. But I was one of the people delegated to go and keep them talking, because we thought maybe the longer that we kept them talking, the less likely it was that the riot police were going to come in, But it was very clear to us. We were just able to be. We just went over the history of what we've done. We tried to do everything by peaceful means, by sort of normal things, writing to MPs, lobbying MPs, and all that sort of stuff. Enough was enough. And we talked. I outlined the Nuremberg defence. Which the Shannon protesters had used. Which is that. At the Nuremberg trials, as well as trying the Nazis for war crimes, they also considered the case of people who bombed the railway lines going to the death camps and to Auschwitz and so on, and they were considered to have not committed a crime.